I meal prep on Sundays to have food for a hot lunch during the week. I'll make turkey bacon, hard-boiled eggs, sauces of various types, such as pesto, and grilled chicken breast. I'll then use these prepped ingredients to make wraps with various salad vegetables throughout the week, or eat them alongside a salad. My wife and I have 2 dogs. They get a combination of prepackaged foods and stuff we cook at home. We're careful with the foods we prep for them and have gotten into the habit of avoiding things dogs can't eat. When I prep my lunches, I communicate this to my wife. I always end up with nothing to eat on Thursday lunches because I don't have time for breakfast. I go hungry from dinner on Wednesday until Thursday night, and then have to spend Thursday evenings prepping lunch on Friday again. I've tried making more. No matter how much I make, I always end up in this situation. I've asked my wife not to give the dogs the food I make for my lunches. She has agreed, but then done this anyway for various reasons. I needed something to give them quickly. I don't have the time to make them something else. It was just this once. This week I made kielbasa on Sunday with braised cabbage. I made enough for 5 lunches. I ate it for lunch yesterday. 2 hours ago, I went into the fridge to eat between meetings, and there was only a single wedge of cabbage left. Everything else was gone. So I texted my wife, asking about it. It all went to the dogs. All of it. My entire week's worth of lunches. Because it's Tuesday, I work later and will not have the opportunity to eat until sometime after 8 p.m., or 26 and a half hours after finishing my last meal. My wife says she doesn't see the big deal and that I'm an idiot for not wanting to share my lunches with the dogs. I think she's being unreasonable. Am I the idiot for being upset about my wife forcing me to compete with the dogs for food? You aren't competing, you're losing. Be realistic about the person you're married to. Bro, there's no way your dogs are eating like this without the worst gas and diarrhea. Imagine how the house smells with dogs just munching on hard-boiled eggs and cabbage. Your wife is eating the food, full stop. The absolute audacity to claim it's the dogs eating this food is insane. The dude would know if their dog had cabbage. The whole county would. He's being abused and has no spine. I would have lost it the second time. We make dog food. She has her own special pan. It's totally people grade, but it's separate, and clearly separate. OP, you need to sit down and have a serious discussion with your wife. She needs to stop doing whatever she's doing with the food. You need to tell her that this is a big deal and that you're not okay with it. She needs to find some basic respect for you. I would seriously get one of those little spy cameras that look like a phone charger cord and would be and can be plugged into it. I would plug it into one of your kitchens, probably many outlets, and then I would watch. What is your wife doing with your food? Eating it herself and lying about it? Feeding the dogs? Having somebody come by for lunch that you don't know about? Seriously, I would want to know. And we're talking about the kitchen, not the bathroom or the bedroom. Nobody should be prancing around the kitchen naked. You are not the idiot, but you have a wife problem. My mother-in-law is getting up there in age. She's not old, 66, but her health isn't the best. She's recently asked us to move in with her because she can no longer work, has 0 retirement funds, and can't get around like she used to. She needs help, and we're the only ones to help her. She has until the end of the month to pay off $12,000 in back taxes before her home goes to foreclosure. My mother-in-law by herself is a kick-butt woman. I love her to bits, but she's a people pleaser to the extreme, and it has absolutely made her fall into situations that I'll never be okay with putting myself in. Her boyfriend is 66-year-old Mason, a felon, due to his continuous intoxicated driving charges. He just got out of prison last year after 6 years on the inside, and he's already right back into drinking all day, every day. He got intoxicated one night back 8 months ago. He decided to go and adopt a 5-year-old Rottweiler Mastiff mix and then failed to attempt to train the animal. It is now food aggressive, kennel aggressive, toy aggressive, and resource guards everything. He's really aggressive and protective of my mother-in-law, so the dog would have to go. Under no circumstances will I make an exception on this. My children are small, one is crawling, and that animal will not get the opportunity to maul my children. The dog stays, we do not move in. period. Mason also has an old school parenting style, and on more than one occasion has tried to father my children in angry, outdated ways. Hence, I said neither he nor my mother-in-law would reprimand or discipline any of my children in any way, shape, or form. I stated my name would be put on the deed before moving in because it would be me and my husband forking over the money to save their home. Frankly, I don't trust Mason to not try and kick us out after we do so. So if we're not put as the main deed holder, we will not be moving in, and she can lose her home. As for the limit on who's allowed at the house, Mason has a family member who's a convicted criminal. He went to prison for 13 years, with whom he hangs out often. He seems to think that since this man is in a wheelchair, he's now harmless. Absolutely not. He's not welcome at the home. As for them treating us with respect under all circumstances and not treating me like a child, there have been several times when Mason and my mother-in-law have tried making decisions for me and my husband, or telling us what to do, and I will not tolerate it. I will give more detailed info if you guys need it, but this is the breakdown anyway. I presented them with this list of demands yesterday and said either my demands are followed or this arrangement will not happen. Mason and mother-in-law are both saying that the list makes them feel as though they're children or guests of their own home and feel like I've now decided I'm going to control their lives and have asked to make changes. They want to keep the dog and have stated that we'll just find a way to keep the dog separate from us. Nope. Mason also wants his said family member to be allowed to be here, but has stated that he'll keep them in their portion of the house and away from my kids. Nope. They also feel that they should be able to reprimand and discipline my children if they're doing something wrong, if it's within reason. Nope. I told them they could speak to the parent, and that's final. I said I'm not budging. My sister-in-law seems to think I'm being ridiculous. Am I the idiot? While your rules don't sound unreasonable, given your explanation, I highly doubt they'll actually adhere to them once you've paid off that tax lien. If the house is sold for taxes, how much equity will be left for mother-in-law to live on? Why isn't your sister-in-law taking her mother in or moving in with her? The real question is, does your husband have your back here, or is he also a people pleaser who'll take his mom's side when push comes to shove? Please do not do this. I'm sorry your mother-in-law needs help, but your children come first, and you put them in a potentially terrible situation. People generally revert to their old ways. So what happens when they break the agreement? Are you able to move out with your children that very day? This truly has disaster written all over it. These are not safe people to live with, regardless of what they agree to. Your mother-in-law's people-pleasing that causes her to fall into bad situations will very likely put your children in a bad situation, whether she means for it to happen or not. Do not move in. You are the idiot if you move in. It's that simple. Anytime money is exchanged or she pays for something, Nadine will immediately Venmo request us for the exact amount owed. If she doesn't immediately, she does it soon after, maybe a day. None of my other friends are like this. It's usually, I got lunch, can you get the coffee? Or I got drinks last night, can you do dinner tonight? And it's always been fine. Most of my friends and I are in the same income bracket, and Nadine actually makes a little more than me, by about $2,000 a year. She's not richy rich. Well, last week, Nadine, Chloe, and I were at a used bookstore. Chloe and Nadine had gone out and gotten coffee before, and Chloe said she'd pay Nadine back. Nadine wanted a copy of The People We Meet on Vacation, which was like $2.50 or something. So Chloe said she'd get the book to pay her back for the coffee. Nadine said, okay, and then you can Venmo me for the rest. The rest was 77 cents, not even $1. I said, are you serious right now? It's 77 cents. Nadine was in fact serious. She said she owed me 77 cents and I'd like to be paid back. Chloe and I locked eyes for a second, and Nadine saw and said that we weren't entitled to her hard-earned money. I said no, of course, we're not entitled to her money, but it's 77 cents between friends, and I don't have any other friends who do this. It's not like we're running a tab, but it's just how friendship works, and it makes her seem kind of stingy. I brought up how a while ago she asked if I wanted to split sandwiches with me because they were both sounding good, and I agreed, and she said that I had to pay her $1.50 since her sandwich was like $3 more than mine. Nadine got super defensive and said again that she works hard for her money and she just doesn't give it away, and if we have a problem with it, too bad. The whole thing has left a bad taste in my mouth. I've never had a friendship like this. Money's always just passed between friends without issue. And for me personally, while I don't do this and none of my friends really do, even if someone who made less than me didn't pay me back for some things, I wouldn't chase them down. But am I the idiot? And was I wrong to say something to her about it? I'm gonna have to say no idiots here. Nadine sounds like a friend I would not like to have around. She sounds like a pain in the butt, but it sounds like she's consistent. And there are probably some strong reasons why she's like this. Someone who is stingy or money conscious might have had some severe trauma around money, whether experienced deprivation as a child or heard stories from relatives scratching out an existence in poverty. Either that, or she's had so-called friends stiffer on money. Why bother sharing cost if settling up afterward is such a drama? Just stop consolidating your bills and this problem goes away. No, Nadine, buy your own stuff and I'll buy mine. I'm Dutch. We have a well-deserved reputation for being frugal, and even I think this is uncalled for. You don't nickel and dime your friends. Who would want such a traditional friendship that includes demanding 77 cents? The sandwich behavior is annoying, stingy, and miserly. All traits I've actively avoided when choosing friends. But still, idiot feels slightly too strong of a word for her. Is Nadine consistent with this behavior when the debt is not in her favor? For example, if you pay for her and she owes you $1, does she immediately VIN you the dollar? No. She'll wait until she has a chance to pay for something else and call it even. We've only been friends for a few months, so it's all new, and we've only been picking up on it lately. Ah, so she's not the eager beaver when it's her turn to pay you back. I wouldn't call your friend stingy. She's a hypocrite. Not the idiot OP for sure, because 77 cents is just weird, but if she was meticulous in paying others back, I'd say that maybe it's a weird personality thing, but this just gives a greedy vibe. I would tell her to pay for herself, and no more money passes between you. My wife and I have a teen daughter who just cleared a highly competitive exam. Now, we're extremely proud of her, and my wife sort of brags about this in her circle of friends, which is fair, I guess. No big deal. However, we do have a couple in a different social circle whose son, also a teen, couldn't clear this exam, and my wife knows. According to social etiquette and in general, you're not supposed to push your achievements in the faces of those who failed, and naturally, any discussions around this exam are a sore spot for them. However, this didn't stop my wife from asking the mom what rank the boy got, how our daughter was undergoing university counseling to decide which college to go to, and stuff like that. I could tell the mom was getting uncomfortable, and I nudged my wife to stop, but she didn't. When we came home, I berated her for how she acted and reminded her that we already talked about this. So why did she deliberately try to make this couple feel bad about this exam? She tried to plead plausible deniability, but I set the record straight and said if she ran her mouth again like that, I'd call her out in front of everyone and embarrass her. She started crying and told me I was awful for how I spoke and the words I used. I don't normally talk to anyone like that, but her persistent behaviors put me off now, as it's not the first time a thing like this has happened. I told her I was sorry if my words hurt her feelings, but she deserved to be called out if she decided to continue acting like this. I felt justified in giving her an ultimatum or warning, because this has been the last straw for me, and I'm tired of having endless conversations with her. This was the only way to get through to her. I used to be like your daughter while I was in school, and my mother used to be like your wife. It is exceedingly embarrassing to be put in the spotlight and scrutinized by people. It's also extremely lonely when your peers alienate you because you're too smart or whatever. Some achievements don't need to be publicized, and you should just let them speak for themselves. Not the idiot. Your wife should stop using your daughter's achievements to gain status among her friends. Yeah, she can cry all she wants about it now, but she was disgustingly cruel. A mean girl. Tell her to dry the crocodile tears. Your wife is wearing your daughter's achievements like a medal so she can feel better about herself and her insecurities. Normally, I'm all about men not embarrassing their wives, but you've tried talking to her, and if she continues, you'll have to call her out publicly. It sounds like she could be proud of her daughter and not socially conscious of it. She should stop doing what she's doing, but the way you talk about her here is really weird. You sound like you fundamentally don't see your wife as a virtuous person and resent her for that. Saying to your spouse they shouldn't run their mouths is strange language. You are the idiot. It's funny reading these comments from people demanding to see her head on a spike when this comes across much more like a two sides to every story. Yeah, I get she's being embarrassing, but she's your wife. And threatening to purposely embarrass her, it's not going to end well. And it's not what you do to loved ones. In college, I had a friend named Rebecca. She moved after graduation and got married. We had our daughters around the same time. Her daughter, I'll call her Katie, young teen female, was bullied at her old school, and they moved back for a fresh start. Both kids would be going into the 7th grade. Rebecca took them to the mall to get to know each other. It didn't go well. I met Katie for the first time, and she's very quirky. I noticed that she's very socially awkward and whispers to herself often. After we left, my daughter explained that she's very touchy, constantly fidgeting, a pointer. Apparently, she kept pointing at people and commenting on their clothes. Her emotions were all over the place. They'd be talking and she'd be mad. Then seconds later, she giggled. My daughter did not want to hang out with her again. I told her that's okay, and we talked about the next school year. She reassured me that she'd probably avoid and not bully or encourage that. Rebecca called asking if the girls could hang out again. I told her this wasn't working and my daughter didn't want to be friends. She asked why, and I told her their personalities didn't match. She kept pushing for them to hang out, and I repeatedly told her no. This resulted in an argument, and I told her straight up, her daughter's weird. My kid doesn't have to be friends with her if she doesn't want to. She calls me a heartless witch. Not the idiot. I feel bad for the girl, but it's still not your or your daughter's responsibility to hang out with her. Switching schools is not going to fix the bullying issue. She's a glowing target. She probably needs the type of help that her parents are trying to paper over with forced friendships. Exactly this. My heart breaks for that poor, weird girl. The fidgeting, talking to herself, and emotions being all over the place points to a medical condition of some sort. Instead of moving and trying to bully people into making their kids hang out with Katie, Rebecca should be trying to get her help, because this sort of behavior is going to make her an outcast no matter where she goes, not just in school, but in college and the professional world as well.